Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're talking about something extremely special. A fascination of mine for many years. Virtual reality. Well, actually it's extended reality. And in this video I want to start out by telling you guys about the history of extended reality, or XR for short. Where it all started and how we got where we are today. How did we end up in a world where everybody is talking about the metaverse? Later this year I'll do more videos on where this might go in the near and far future and why you should care about that. But we cannot look towards the future if we do not understand the past. Now for the people that have never heard about VR, AR, MR, XR, a short intro. VR or virtual reality is basically a common name for these types of devices. Headsets that show us a virtual world and that allow us to interact with that world. This is the Oculus Quest 2, by the way. A great standalone headset and not that expensive. If you're looking to get into VR, this is a good start. But anyways, extended reality is a little more complex than just virtual reality. There are some schematics out there that show all kinds of realities that theoretically should exist. But these are the three most important ones. VR or virtual reality, AR or augmented reality, and MR or mixed reality. VR is indeed these types of headsets where the base reality, the reality that we live in every single day, is being replaced with a digital one, completely. Pretty simple. Now AR or augmented reality is on the other end of the spectrum, and it is defined as a digital layer on top of the base reality. The words on top are really critical here. You'll see in a minute, but Pokemon Go, for instance, is a good example of augmented reality. Or the Snapchat or TikTok filters that you use. A digital layer is put on top of what you're watching or filming. Now, mixed reality or MR is where it gets really interesting. With MR, the digital content is woven in the base reality. This is an example. The digital whale is woven into the base reality, which is a high school gym. You can see that the perspective of this whale has been changed to kind of fit the perceiver, and people can actually get in front of the whale, so basically clipping that digital content for you. That looks realistic. Now this demo was made by Magic Leap, a company that promised to make headsets or glasses that do this. I'll talk more about Magic Leap and all that in a future video. But yeah, at some point in the future, we might live in a world where digital content is woven into our base reality, and that would allow us to skin reality. We can change themes, colors, put extra objects in there, more information, and we will be able to choose how much of that base reality comes through the digital layer. It would almost be like a slider that has you changing it from VR to MR. Kind of depending on how you feel, what your mood is. That could be fun, right? But yeah, it's also kind of scary. There is this digital art project, a video that kind of shows the potholes, the risks, on how we kind of interpret media at this point and how powerful this tool would be. I'll leave a link to that video in the description. But anyways, where did this all start? A history lesson. Well, you might actually be surprised, but this has been going on for a long time. Virtual reality, the concept at least, is not that recent. It actually started with panoramic paintings. They were these huge pieces of art, some of them even cylindric, like huge rooms that were used in the 1700s and 1800s to draw in people into battlefields, exotic places, vistas. They were used to tell stories and teleport people to different locations that they would never be able to visit. The idea was that you would stand really close to that painting and it would take in your whole vision. And you would just imagine that you're standing in the middle of a green meadow. You just kind of have to get over that smell of paint, but you know. Now these paintings were big, so they were expensive. And there was always that one guy that needed to get in the way or get really close into your personal bubble. And trust me, he did not smell like paint. So a gentleman called Charles Wheatstone invented the first stereoscope. It was a still pretty big and kind of scary installation that projected different images on your left and your right eye with the help of mirrors. Now the combination of those two images created the illusion of 3D. That thing looks like it would make you go cross-eyed. Seriously. Like I said, it was still pretty huge. So 10 years later, David Brewster, a British inventor, made it a little more compact. And in the 1940s, that compact version was actually the basis of something we still know today, the Viewmaster. I used to play with that a lot. They still exist, but they're not that impressive anymore. The first time that the concept of virtual reality appeared was in a fantasy novel called Pygmalion's Spectacles. Yeah, that is an interesting title. It was written by Stanley G. Weinbaum in the 1930s. Now, the actual name virtual reality was not used in the book, but it still had a lot of the concepts that we know today. It actually told the story of a professor that invented a pair of goggles that allowed him to kind of walk into stories. He could see, feel, smell, actually interact with the people in that story thanks to those glasses. So basically they were Jumanji glasses, if you've seen the movie. In current real life, in extended reality and virtual reality, we kind of struggle to kind of incorporate touch, smell, all those things. It's mainly about vision, audio, and some kind of interaction. But a man called Morten Heilig actually succeeded in having the whole package back in the 1950s. When I say the whole package, well, kinda. Meet the Sensorama, a revolutionary motion picture system that takes you into another world. It had 3D, wide vision, motion, color, stereo sound, aromas, wind, vibrations. Well, that actually sounds like they're describing someone that had a lot of beans. I'm sorry, that was a dad joke. Anyways, they were short movies that were recorded with very expensive gear, and they needed very expensive gear to be played. And to be honest, the result wasn't that impressive. But Morten kept trying though, because in the 1960s he developed the first head-mounted display, and he called it the Telesphere Mask. That is starting to look familiar, isn't it? Around that same time, some engineers at Philco made the head side. In one room there's someone wearing a helmet, in the other room there's a camera. The camera image is fed to the headset, then bam, you have something like VR. In 1968, we had the Sword of Damocles. This installation got its name because it looked like it would kill you if it fell down. And I'm pretty sure that would have been the case. It was developed by Ivan Sutherland, who actually had written a paper called The Ultimate Display. It was, however, the first instance of an augmented reality headset. So there was digital content over the base reality. Now the digital content was just a floating cube, but still, it was digital. So in the last 200 years, a lot has happened to kind of set the stage for virtual reality as we know it today. But it wasn't until the 1980s that things got really serious. In 1984, a former Atari employee got fired, and he started his own company, VPL, or Visual Programming Lab. That person was Jaron Lanier. The goal of VPL was to commercialize virtual reality applications. And Jaron is actually often credited for thinking of the name virtual reality. And for some years he was actually pretty successful with VPL, till the 1990s. And he just went belly up. The technology they used was just too expensive and it didn't match expectations. It was underwhelming. Still, in the 80s and the early 90s, we had the first wave of virtual reality. And during that first wave, I wrote an essay about virtual reality for my moral sciences class. I wrote about how this technology could rise us to new heights, but also what the risks were. And I've been a fan ever since I was a little boy and I wrote that essay. One time I actually traveled to London, and in Trocadero, which was a huge 6-story Luna Park or arcade, they had virtual reality machines. So I paid £1 to get my first virtual reality experience. It was like watching through 2 tubes of paper roll how a bunch of red squares were attacking each other. It was different, but still, I could sense the potential of this medium. During that time, Nintendo released their Virtual Boy, which is still the biggest meme they ever released. And there was Lawnmower Man, a movie that was based on a Stephen King novel that talked about virtual reality. But sadly, the wave kind of died down. Again, because the technology was too expensive and too underwhelming. Until Palmer Luckey. Over the years, as that wave died down, VR had survived, but as a tool within a professional context. Mainly the US military, because they had the budgets to spend on that kind of research and on expensive gear. And at the Army-funded Institute for Creative Technologies worked a young part-time engineer called Palmer Luckey. Palmer was a VR fanatic. He himself had 50 headsets at home, and he actually worked on a team that was tasked to make the most cost-effective VR. But over the years, he had grown kind of frustrated because of all these expensive and inadequate head-mounted displays. So he decided to build his own. Now, he had some experience in repairing phones, because that was how he kind of earned money to do these projects, to do his own projects. So he used all these parts that he knew from mobile phones to build his own headset. He posted it on a forum he founded himself, and it actually drew the attention of someone important, John Cormack, who you might know as the co-founder of IDsoft, the developer behind Quake, Doom, Wolfenstein. John asked Palmer to get a prototype, which he actually used to demo Doom 3 at E3, and things got rolling. They ended up starting Oculus. There was a successful Kickstarter for $2.4 million, and in 2014 he just sold the whole thing to Facebook for $3 billion. There were some PR nightmares after that with Palmer, and in 2017 he left Facebook. He is now a full-time cosplayer. Nah, I'm kidding. Apparently he's back working for the military. But with the Oculus Rift, he set in motion The second wave of VR. More affordable and better headsets made by the parts that we have been putting in mobile phones for years. Why didn't I think of that? Other companies jumped on the VR boat like Valve, HTC, LG, Samsung, and a bunch of new companies were founded. But they all still had an issue. Yeah, sure, these headsets were more affordable, but for a normal family, that was still a huge cost. Especially since you needed a really beefy PC to run the content on the headsets. Otherwise, you would just have these kind of big, ridiculous looking sunglasses. So over time, we saw an evolution towards standalone headsets. First there were the cardboard things where you kind of put your phone in. Do you remember those? Those were kind of risky for your phone and not that impressive. They also kind of developed these plastic versions. They had headsets that had the phone chips in there, and now we have the standalone headsets like this one. Now those tethered high-end headsets, they still exist. They will always exist, but they're moving into that professional space again. And this time around they're used for healthcare, construction, industry solutions, and of course the military. But the consumer future for VR is in these headsets, because they're lightweight and they're not that expensive. And sure, the games and the experiences on these types of headsets versus the Vive, which I also own, they're different. And I'm extremely relieved that I don't have to mess with cables. I don't have to be near a PC. And I don't have to break the bank to get one. Now we'll most likely see more variations of this type of headset pop up in the next few years. And that includes from Oculus and Facebook, because Mark Zuckerberg is betting on that, because he's now all about the metaverse. But one day, we'll see the next step in the extended reality or metaverse. And I'm convinced that it's not going to come from Facebook. See, in my opinion, it's always the companies that are extremely quiet that you have to keep an eye on, and not those sunscreen hogging, preachy people. My money actually is, and has been for quite a time, on Apple. There have been rumors for years now that they're working on some kind of headset, and they have acquired a lot of companies that have technology that would help them to build that. They have been developing technology right under our nose. See, why does my phone have LiDAR? It's this little thing. It's basically a light radar. It sends out a laser signal and it measures how long it takes to come back. That allows it to kind of map a 3D space extremely quickly and extremely efficient. It is really nifty, but the use cases on my phone are kind of limited. It's kind of interesting in Pokemon Go, and if I want to use the IKEA app, sure. But there's more going on here. That's just it. They are producing and testing this technology, readying developers to use this technology. Because one day it's going to be used in something completely new. Something like XR glasses. And at that point, all these developers that have been developing these apps using the LiDAR will just have to click one button to port those applications from the phone to the headset. Well, one button, maybe a few. But that gives Apple a bit of a head start and a lot of content for a headset they haven't even released yet. And you're going to fork over all your euros and all your dollars to get one. Now, what is that going to look like? If I knew that, I would have a lot more subscribers. When is it coming? Well, soon. But I've been saying soon for the last 5 years, so I'll go deeper into the future of extended reality in the next video, so make sure to subscribe. I hope you guys enjoyed this little overview. Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Till then, take care of yourself, take care of each other. Bye bye.